Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. My name is Steve Jewell with Community Giving, and I'm pleased to welcome you to our series of webinars that we actually started a little about a year ago as we all headed home to be at home during COVID. We found this has been a great way for us to stay in touch, not the best, but another way for us to stay in touch and be able to communicate some of the things that are happening at Community Giving and at our partner foundations. And today we're really delighted to have two wonderful guests with us and to talk about corporate giving, and in particular, corporate advised funds. We have many wonderful small businesses and companies doing business in all the areas that we serve. And we know that almost all of them enjoy giving back to their local communities in a variety of different ways. And so we're very fortunate that a few of them actually have decided to work through their local community foundation, and they find it beneficial to help give back. So thank you for joining us today. Just a couple of important points is that you do have some questions, please put them in the Q&A tab below, and we will get to the questions from the audience. And so please do that. Also, just to let you know, we do also tape this session. So for some reason, if you have to step away, or later, if you want to go to our website, this will be recorded and be available there as a resource for either you to download or to share with your friends and colleagues. And we have other webinars coming up. And Carl at the end will kind of give you a summary of those that will be coming up. And so we hope that you can tune in then. So now I'd like to turn it over to the Executive Director of the Alexandria Community Foundation. One of the key pieces in her background, Holly Witt, who is the Executive Director, is that she did work in the area of corporate giving, in particular for Bremer in the Alexandria market area. And we're just delighted to have her a part of the team and Executive Director of the Alexandria Community Foundation. So Holly, turning it over to you.
All right, thank you, Steve. So I'm going to make the statement that philanthropy is good for business. And I'm going to give you some of the benefits of corporate giving. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Jason and Chris later from their firsthand experience. But at the Community Foundation, we work with donors. We work with donors who are passionate about philanthropy. They're passionate about their causes and they give to those causes. But they also watch what businesses do and where they give, what they give to. And this whole idea of social responsibility has really grown, I think, especially with the millennials and younger generation. They're really demanding and looking for places to make a difference. They're not just interested in profits and about meeting goals, but they're interested in a corporate culture that includes philanthropy and giving back to their communities. As Steve mentioned, I lived in the world of Bremer for 10 years. I was a nonprofit resource specialist with Bremer. That was the story that we told about how the foundation owned the banks and grants were given out from the profits of the banks back into the communities. Now, I know that many banks have, most banks have their own corporate giving strategies and ways that they give back to the community, and they give back big time. But Bremer is just one example, and that was the world that I lived in. It's just an example of a brand that's rooted in philanthropy. Some of the other benefits to corporate philanthropy are increasing employee engagement and productivity and actually attracting talent. As I mentioned, I think we're seeing the millennials, especially, I feel like that's kind of where it started. Even though I'm not a millennial, I think it's important too, but a place where work fits values and a desire to give back to the community in a broader way. And so the other thing is brand awareness and reputation with employees, with customers, with the community. When companies support social and environmental issues, there's a statistic that says 92% of consumers say they have a more positive image of the company. So people take notice. And one of the examples I think of here is Thrivent, when they started to give to habitat builds. I would guess that their name became more popular. People heard about Thrivent through their corporate giving to Habitat Builds. And of course, I think that then translates into increased sales. And so that attracts customers. And studies show that people spend more with brands that support their causes. 87% of consumers say they would purchase a product simply because a company advocates for an issue they care about. I think about myself, at least I tell my husband this, I like to shop at Hobby Lobby, and it's not even just for the products. I spend money there, but I watch their corporate giving. I watch where they give, what they support. And so I'm more apt to shop there because of their corporate giving philosophy. And I think I'm not alone in that. The other quick thing is the tax benefits of corporate giving. So that's another whole area. But we are now going to hear some examples of corporate giving through their corporate advised funds from Jason and Chris. And they'll give examples, real life examples of the difference it's made for them. And so I'm going to turn it over to Carol next, and she'll talk a little bit more about corporate advised funds. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Holly. So I'm very happy to be sitting here with Jason Bernick from Bernick's and Chris Wayne from Laraway Financial. They have corporate advised funds with Central Minnesota Community Foundation. And one of the things that we try to do at the foundation is to be able to be a good partner for companies. And so we know that not all corporate advised funds are the same, and each company has its own unique needs. And so we're going to be able to show you some of the differences between these two companies and let you know that as community foundations, we're very much interested in supporting companies to be able to benefit them and help them to reach their philanthropic goals. So we're going to start with Jason. I'll ask you this first, and then Chris, you can follow up. Why does your company choose to be philanthropic and to give locally?
Why does Bernick's? We choose to be philanthropic. You know, Bernick started in 1916. We were established, and it was a very small company back then. So giving back to the community largely consisted of maybe buying rounds of drinks at the local tavern or something like that. But you know, really, as years progressed, you know, there was always a personal connection with the community, and my grandfather was always out and about and very personal with so many different members of the community. So back then the resources were small, but as our company grew and our resources and their things, we, you know, what we give back now is fairly sizable. And today we're giving back 5% of our net profits back to the communities where we serve our products. And we feel that this is really important to give back to these communities, because it's these communities that keep us strong. So it's a win-win all the way around, because these communities support us, we support the communities to keep them strong. We live in these communities, so we want a healthy community to live in, and we just feel that this is the best approach. And you know, we have a vested interest in this community, and we want to keep it as strong and healthy as possible.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jason. Chris.
And to piggyback off what Jason said, one of our core values is stewardship. And so we are very dedicated to giving back to the community that we live and work in. And I mean, it's the community that helps us. And so giving back is just the natural course that you should take. So as being one of our core values, it's a prime example is to lead from example and start at the top. And so that's why we give back.
That's great. So Chris, I'll ask you this first. Do you have a specific mission or focus for your corporate giving? You both talked about how giving back to the community is important. Some companies are very specific about it and others are more general. So can you tell us about your philosophy?
So we don't have a specific mission. We're fairly new to the corporate advised, and primarily because we started it in 2017, I believe. So going on 4 years, but really our mission, we want to give back as a company, but we also want to pass that on to everybody that works here. And so if we're showing that we're giving donations and adding funds to this advised fund and giving back either based on profits or whatever dollar amount, we want to get other people involved. We want everybody here to get a say and see what we're doing as a company as a whole, and then spread that through everyone individually. So our mission not only is to give back to the community, but also to have everyone else here in the office want to give back as well. So we have a match program that if somebody wants a cause or has a cause that they want donated to, we'll match it up to a certain dollar amount. And I think that helps. If we show it, we're giving back, and we might not know, there's thousands of causes out there. I couldn't even name all of them, but there's so many, and what's important to one person may not be as important, but we want to be able to match that and show the benefits and give them a reason to want to give more.
Great, thanks. Jason, what about you? Do you have a specific mission or focus for your philanthropic giving at Bernick's?
Right. We have 2 areas where we focus our giving toward, and health and fitness and youth and education. Now, youth and education is, we feel we focus on that because that's really the future of our community. That's our future workforce. That's our future leaders in the community. They're the people that are going to be leading this community in the future. Hopefully they don't leave and go somewhere else and lead somewhere else, but they're our future, no matter where they end up going. And we really feel like youth and education is a very important area to fund. So that's kind of something that's been important to Bernick's over the years. And on the health and fitness side, well, obviously our health and fitness is important to all of us, but there's also a need to offset and try to promote the health and fitness where some of our products may contribute to somebody over consuming, maybe too many calories, not really paying attention to the calories in. So, when you see somebody drinking a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, that's a lot. And we don't necessarily support that, but fine, if you're going to drink a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, let's get you some physical activity to burn that off. So we just want it to be supporting the areas where we might be participating in something that we'd like to offset, and that's providing some sort of balance in the support that we give back. So it's really focused on those 2 areas. But we also do a lot of different donating to different organizations for lots of different reasons. In-kind contributions. We support fundraisers by sponsoring them, and we also have our grant round and the things we'll get into in a little bit.
Great. I really like how you both talked about it and the different angles there. For Bernick's, it's really about looking at the products that you sell and the impact that they have on the community and what you want to say to people about, that, yes, we have these great products. Health and fitness is important too. So that's wonderful. And then on Laraway Financial, what I heard Chris talk about is the fact that it's not only about external, about what's best for the community in general, but also about helping your employees to feel engaged by them being a part of the process and actually supporting them in their philanthropic goals. So very neat. So I think, Jason, you mentioned a little bit about this. You said 5% of your profits, I think, but how do you determine how much to give annually? And then my question was, is it a set amount, a percentage of profits or something else? And then do staff give to the fund as well? So this would be, I know that Chris, you used an example of matching what your employees do, but do either of you have a situation where staff also contribute to this fund to be able to give? So, and Jason, I'll let you start.
Yeah, we do 5% of our net profits back to the community, but that also includes volunteerism. It also includes all the in-kind contributions that I was just mentioning, the sponsorships for fundraisers and other things. So we do encourage our team to volunteer with different organizations and do community work. A lot of people like to do youth sports activities, coaching, youth soccer, something like that. And we really support that. And a lot of times, we'll support some product for the youth in the athletics that they play in. So it's just being mindful of really the whole picture of the community and not too narrowly focused. And I'm not sure if I'm getting to the other part of your question.
Sure. The other part was, do staff give to the fund as well then? But you're saying they give of their time to the community.
Right. Yeah. They're giving their time, and we take care of the financial support.
Chris.
How much we give? Last year, that was actually one of our goals, was to come up with a system or a process as to what we were able to give or how we want to give. But things last year kind of got turned upside down. So that is on our agenda for this year, so we can be more consistent. And then everybody in the office knows what we're achieving and what we want to give every year, and we can have that as one of our annual goals. The other part of the question, the staff does not contribute to the fund, but we still want them engaged, and we still want to do the match for them, but they are actively involved with the process, just not giving to the fund.
Mm-hmm. Great. When I was up north, there was a company that I worked with, and they did, it was a manufacturing setting, so a different setting, but they would periodically provide lunches, and all proceeds from the lunch from employees would go to whatever that particular cause was again. So I just want to throw that out there as when we're looking at all the different ways that corporate advised funds can be set up, that is one other way that another organization is doing it. And it is so much based on the type of company that you are, the number of staff that you have, and then what your mission is as well. So is all of your giving done through your corporate advised fund, or do you do internal giving in addition? And I know, Jason, you've already said that you do some internal giving, but do you have how do you determine what you do internally and what goes through your fund then?
There's a request process that the community can put a request in on our website, and those get reviewed, and we have a budget set for that. So that gets reviewed by a committee, and the committee makes decisions once the money's gone, or the money or the value, because it could be an in-kind contribution. They have discretion to spend that money as the request comes in, and that provides the ultimate flexibility for whatever is changing on the ground. And then we do reserve some of the budget for ongoing commitments, like some of these fundraisers that go around that we would like to sponsor. So that's kind of a set amount. We, unless we have reason to change that, we continue that support.
Great. And then Chris, do you do outside? I know you do the match, but is there a sponsorship program or some of the other small funding that you may do in addition to your corporate fund?
We try to do everything through the fund. And the only time we wouldn't is if it's a last minute and they need a check right then and there. but for the most part, it's all done through the fund. It's just easy. It makes the process is easy, and everybody's involved. So that's what we enjoy, and that's what we like.
That's great. Okay, so how do you decide where grants are going to go? Do you have an advisory committee? And if you do, is it staff, is it management, or who makes those decisions? And then how do you decide who's involved, who sits on that advisory committee? Can you talk a little bit about that? Chris, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, our office here is pretty small, but we have offices in Alexandria and Brainerd too. That's another reason why we're trying to get our systems in place to work with those other advisors in those other towns to work with their community foundation. We have a process where we get things in the mail throughout the whole year, different organizations, different events that are coming up, and it's just looked at every quarter. Unless it's a time crunch, then we'll do a last minute meeting. But for the most part, it's just a discussion. We talk about the pros and cons. Do we agree with this? I know we don't have a specific mission, but if it's anything to do with education and youth, that's a higher priority on our list, but we don't have that written in stone. For example, last year, at the last minute, we helped with some school lunches, and we worked with House of Pizza. And we talked about it probably for 5 minutes, and that was it, because we knew it was something that was for education and for youth and for the local communities. So that's where it starts. Gather all the information, whether it's letters, requests, and then we have a conversation and we talk about it and determine the amount. And that's the nice thing about the fund, as you're making contributions and donating to it, it also grows at the same time. So that's short and simple right there.
Great, thanks. Jason.
We established our grants program in 2009, and prior to that, we had a committee, and the committee would get together whenever a request came in, or we would decide whether even to have the committee talk about a request. And we found that it wasn't very consistent. And it was kind of interfering with normal business operations, because we'd have to schedule this meeting and do it in a timely manner to manage the requests. And we found we were being more generous, and it was harder to hit our budget target, which is 5%, with this process. So our committee and our family got together and figured out we need help with this, and we decided to partner with the Community Foundation, Central Minnesota Community Foundation, for these resources to help us apply a consistent set of criteria across all of the grant requests, and to have some assistance in vetting the applications. We found that we got a lot more applications after we established the grant fund, and that would have been a lot more challenging for us to deal with. And it really works well. We are still very involved. The committee follows this process, and we we're fine-tuning this process nearly every year. So if we find something, that we'd like to change, we just ask the foundation to help us out, and it happens. And it's very simple for us, very easy for us to execute. We run it as a pass-through. So once we issue the grants, we write the check, and then the foundation handles all of the details of issuing the individual checks. So it makes it very simple for us, just like Chris was talking about. It simplifies the process, but it keeps us involved at the right level where we need to be involved, not at the every level all the way through.
Great. I'll just say a little bit more about the process that we use for Bernick's. It is a competitive grant round, so once a year, this is opened up. The complexity for Bernick's is that they cover a wide region too. It isn't just one community; it's several communities. So trying to represent all of those communities fairly. And then staff at the foundation review applications to make sure that they qualify. We make some suggestions of ones that we think fit the criteria best. But then it does go back to Bernick's to review, determine which are the higher, the ones that have the higher quality. And we actually use a letter of intent for those first applications. And we get close to 100, Jason, I would say.
Yeah, we've had 130 or so. At
Yes,
one point.
yeah, easy. And we try to narrow that down. And then once it's narrowed down, then the others are invited to do a full application then. And Jason's team reviews those then to determine who does it. One of the beauties about a community foundation too is that it doesn't lay it back on the company to have to respond or why there was a no. So, you know, if a grant is denied, then the contact information is the foundation's, and then we can relay back that, you know, there were a lot of great applications or whatever feedback we need to share with people, which allows the company then to not have to deal with anything that might feel negative. You know, I mean, there's only so much that a company can do. So, you know, there has to be some no's along with it, but it's so much easier for the foundation and an objective outsider to be able to give that response rather than to lay it on the company to deal with that as well. So I think it's been a great system. I know that it's been exciting to see the types of projects that have been able to be done in several of the communities, thanks to Bernick's and the way that grant process is set up and too. So, and again, this is just about the flexibility of serving the companies, you know, on what their needs are. And the needs can be so very different then. So I want to go on and ask you, do you look to the foundation to give you information about community needs, or how do you find out about community needs? Is it all just requests coming in?
You want me to-
Go ahead, Chris.
Right now, we're just giving back to the requests that we're receiving. And since we're primarily in the beginning stages and trying to fine tune our process and have more of a structure, that is one reason why it is with the community foundation, because if we know we want to give back and we haven't given much throughout the year, working with the community foundation is a great way to turn to and say, give us a few ideas that could use a little extra support this year, or will you help us? So knowing that it's more, we look at it more as a team. I mean, we're partnering up with the foundation, and if we do need resources, we know that you have them. So it is good to know that it's in our back pocket. Right now, we have not turned to the foundation for additional guidance, but believe me, that's most likely going to change sooner than later.
Thanks.
And for us, it's our grant round. It mostly is what helps us, you know, manage the emerging needs in the round. But we have regular dialogue with the foundation, and if something new is going on, something emerging is going on, and that we need to donate a pallet of water somewhere, that stuff comes up on the radar, and we find out about it very easily. But for the most part, it's through the grant round.
That's great. So what would you say is the biggest advantage to your organization of using a corporate advised fund then? And Jason, I'll start with you.
The big advantage, and I spoke a little about this already, is that it simplifies the process for us. It takes a lot of time out of our schedules to do this. So this way, we focus more deliberately on the time we do spend with our community giving, and we have a lot better consistency in how our criteria is applied. So it's just a huge advantage to be able to do this. And it's when we're doing $150,000 grant round, it's hard, and like you said, sometimes we get over 100 applicants. It's kind of come down since we helped with our fine tune our criteria, but it's really hard to get that from $1.5 million in requests down to $150,000. So, and like you were mentioning earlier, that buffer for vetting, where you're notifying the applicants to say, hey, sorry, this one didn't make it. That's huge for us. And it's hard for us to say, no, we don't always do it consistently or, in the same way. And sometimes it's a customer connection and something like that. And I will intervene in some of those, talking, after they get done with the process with the foundation, I'll follow up, or they call me and we have further discussion, but at least, I can share with them very reasoned out, consistent criteria and qualifications that were applied.
Great.
I would agree with the ease. It's very easy to submit a request and the check goes out. Another advantage is really, I look at it as getting more people involved. And I love the fact that the staff has an opinion, can voice their opinion. Everyone has different causes and it feels good to be part of it. And so really to simplify the process is what I'm looking forward to. I'm not at a complicated process yet, like Bernick's is, so I'm definitely going to look for the community foundation to give some resources, some help when that time comes. But really the advantage is it's in one spot and you can do it online, and getting people involved just makes you feel good.
That's great. Thank you both. And would you say that, one of the things that Holly mentioned earlier was about the brand and reputation of the companies are often seen more positively because of your presence philanthropically in the community. Would you agree that you see that as well? Do you get recognition from people that coming up to you saying, oh, I noticed that you did this or that, or thank you for being a part of this or that in the community? And Chris, I'll start with you.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes. I guess I don't look for the recognition, but that's me personally. I'd rather be kind of behind the scenes, and then as long as I know and the people here in the office know that it's going to a good cause and we're fulfilling what our goal is. I have had some people come up and say thanks for helping out, but I guess I don't know. That's a tough question really to answer, and I guess bottom line is I'm not looking for the recognition as long as it's going for something good. That's what I really wanted to go for. And yeah, why'd I have to go first? No, as long as it's going for something good. Take it away, Jason.
I've had a little time to think about it. So, yeah, and, for recognition for us is, I do see it. And, in some cases we're looking for it, in other cases we're not, when we do a lot of and you know what, I hear more about the little contributions we make because I'm out there and visible in the community, and people get to know me and everything. So I kind of feel what's going on the ground, and I hear more about, oh, you donated 5 cases of bottled water for my hockey team, or we were doing a fundraiser for so and so, and thank you for the contribution. And that's small, and the individuals that say this, are, they know we do more, but the stuff that hits them is really very meaningful. And so it's that presence, and really the foundation helps us, recognize our gifts. And, we like to be kind of humble, but at the same time, we do want people to know that we're out there supporting this community in some way. So it's obviously very important, and the foundation really helps us get the right messaging out to the right people.
I think that there's a big difference in the models of your companies as well, with Bernick's being a widely regional place, and also a product-based rather than service-based. That recognition can be important. So I know that there are things you can go to. I know where Bernick's is a lot of times, because I'll go into a community and I'll see a Bernick's ball field or something, and then it's like, oh, Bernick's are here too. I wouldn't know exactly where all you were if it wasn't for that. So I definitely see that advantage there. It works in your business, not necessarily in all businesses. So, but I think that's really what our point is about when we talk about corporate advised funds, is that there is no one size fits all. And as a community foundation, we recognize that, because even as community foundations, one size doesn't fit all. If you look at the ones that we have inside Community Giving, we all do slightly different things then too. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah and see if she has some outside questions for you as well. And thank you so much, Jason and Chris.
Thank you, Carol. We do have a few suggestions in the Q&A tab, so I'm going to, I'm just going to run through some questions with each of you at this point. So the first question really is, what would you say in the form of advice, perhaps, to another corporate colleague who is considering establishing a corporate advised fund within their community foundation? So I'm going to start with Jason, and then we'll go to Chris on that particular question.
Yeah, for Bernick's, we started by looking to establish our own formal foundation, and we found that was going to be very expensive and difficult to manage. So in some cases, that might be the right thing for somebody that wants to establish a foundation. But if you don't have the resources at your disposal to manage your own foundation, you can scale as big or as small. I feel like we're fairly big with the Central Minnesota Community Foundation, but I know of others in the community that have a small donor advised fund, and they just do it very easily to whatever comes up on their mind to donate, and it can be as big or as small as you want. And really, the resources are available. I can't imagine anybody better at it than one of the community giving foundations.
Thank you, Chris.
Jason's answer was spot on. Yeah, all the heavy lifting is done for you by teaming up with Community Giving, and with that already in place, it makes it so much easier. And if a corporation is looking to start that fund, it's a matter of just calling them up and getting it started. You don't have to create the accounts and create the processes and do all the legal portion of it. It's done for you. So the ease of getting involved can happen and start right away. So that would be a huge advantage.
I would imagine too that for both of you, it is a financial advantage as well, because you're sending essentially 1 or 2 checks over to complete all of your philanthropic giving, as opposed to needing to execute multiple checks over time to multiple grantees. You just send us one gift, we send you one tax receipt, and then we take care of distribution. So have you seen that as an impact on the bottom line in your fiscal accounting department as well, Chris?
It has, and you're right. I mean, the ease, it's one or two checks to follow and track versus multiple. You get the receipts. I mean, out of the logistics, accounting ease, it's great. It's easier to track. And once you know where you're at, you don't have to look for multiple checks. Have they cleared? Where are we at? So yes, and that would help on increasing the amount you can give, because you can see where you're at and say, hey, we're having a better than normal year. Let's maybe increase that. So yes, on an accounting standpoint, a lot easier.
Jason, anything you'd want to add from an accounting perspective that having a corporate advice fund with the Community Foundation has made an impact for Bernick's?
Well, I support what Chris just said, because that's all applies at Bernick's as well. And also, I think the biggest advantage we get is the administrative savings, is that we can stay focus our time on what's important for us, and then we don't have to issue a lot of different checks. I'll do a lot of footwork, and it saves us time, which is worth money, and that is a huge savings.
Jason, the next question, I think we'll start with you because I'm not certain if Chris and the Laraway team are in the scholarship realm yet, but I know that Bernick's helps with scholarships. So do you use your corporate advised fund to do your scholarship work, or have you established a separate fund to handle scholarships?
We actually initiated the scholarship fund before. This was in 2002, before we did our grant round in 2009, and we established the scholarship fund differently, because we wanted that to be an endowed fund where we throw the money in there and it's self-sustaining, and we don't have to think about funding it anymore. But we do pay for the administrative costs each year, but the scholarship fund was really an important thing, and it's there again. It's focusing on education, what's important to us, and the foundation really helps us with the application process. It's all online, and there are a lot of details that we've done to customize it the way it works for us. And we like to promote the students that receive our scholarship fund. So, we've set it up where the student needs to upload a photo together with their application, and so everything's really streamlined. And we support the process, and we have a volunteer from the family that helps in reviewing the applications, so that we are directly involved in the process of the scholarship, issuing the scholarships. So it's been a huge success for us, and we really like the way the foundation helps us with it.
Thank you. This next question, I'm going to start with Chris, and then we'll go to Jason, and it is kind of an example. So the chat asked if you could share one or two specific stories or examples of projects you have funded through your corporate advice fund that have really given you and your team some joy, or have been really fun to see implemented in the community for those folks who are thinking about how could a corporate advice fund actually work for me. They're looking for some examples from the two of you. So Chris, is there one or two that you'd be willing to share?
Of course. Let's see. One example is Kimberly Foster in her office was part of a matching gift program that was at Great Theater. And so she was trying to raise funds, and because we matched her donation along for the Great Theater. So that was one example where our matching came in. Another example was my best friend in college. His twin daughters have cystic fibrosis, and they were doing a CF walk, and I wanted to make sure that they raised money. I care for him and the cause, and he's a great friend. And so we did a donation to his CF walk and his team.
That's a great example of how personal that was for your team and how your corporate giving could really leverage something good moving forward. Thank you for sharing that. Jason, are there a couple of examples that you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, well, there's a ton of examples that, you know, and I don't know where to start with it, but you know, what we like to do, or what I will do, is I'll go to each of our grant recipients every year. So this year there's 7 of them, and I've already made some of these visits this year, and I'll bring a big check and I'll do a photo op, and they love it, and then I get to see what's going on with these organizations and what kind of use they're putting this money toward. And it's really heartening to see these. And Chris, you brought up Great Theater, and that was going to be one of my examples, and how they're taking youth that might otherwise be just looking for, just trying to kill time out in the community, maybe getting into trouble or doing something, and they take them in and they're having fun. And they don't know they're learning stuff, but they're having fun. And that's a really cool example of seeing the money going to really good use. I'll just think of one more example. Last year, we had the YMCA up in the Brainerd area, and the funding we provided went to their camp. And these kids are from homes that probably not very functional, and they get away from that and spend a lot of time at this camp, and they're having fun. Again, they don't know they're learning things. They're learning life skills that are very important to them, but they'll also get a little exposure to other elements besides the not so healthy environment that they might be at home.
Well, thank you both for sharing those examples. I think you just hit exactly on why community philanthropy is such a powerful tool to change lives in the communities that we hold dear. So we just want to thank you both for sharing your insights and your expertise. We want to share too with our professional advisor group that is listening to this, or donors that are listening to this, to give us a call at the Community Foundation if something you've heard today about a corporate advice fund has been particularly intriguing to you, or you have some follow-up questions. We are ready to answer those questions for you. Our contact information is now on the screen for you. And we receive calls all the time, just asking general questions. So don't be afraid to give us a call and ask how this might work. And if we can get you in touch with someone who has experience from your seat on the bus in having a corporate advice fund, like Chris or Jason or someone else, we'd be happy to put you in touch with them so that you might ask them some logistical questions, business to business as well. That is part of the concierge level service that we provide at your community foundation. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Carl Samp with the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation, and he will wrap up our session today.
Thank you, Sarah, and a special thank you to Jason and Chris for sharing your expertise in what you've developed with corporate advice funds, but especially thank you for the work that you're doing in your communities, both as an employer providing good jobs, but also the community support to issues and initiatives going on. I appreciate, especially Jason, we funded the same camp project at the Y, so I know what you're talking about. It's a great project, so thanks for being part of that. Thank everyone who took the time to join us today. We appreciate that. And as Sarah said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact any one of us on the screen that you see there, or through our website to get a hold of us. And we're happy to help you share information and help you come up with solutions to your charitable goals. We want to also encourage you to use our website for information. So it's at www.communitygiving.org. You can see we have special site for plan giving assistance, including calculators for charitable gift annuities and other resources. So that's at plangiving.communitygiving.org. And there's professional advisor resources on that second line at PRAD resources. If you've missed any webinars and want to look back, we just recently did one to kind of explain how a community foundation works with professional advisors to help your clients with holistic financial planning, which includes the charitable giving component. You can find those past sessions at communitygiving.org/community connections. And we also are still having our COVID-19 response funds and information on what we've been doing to address the COVID issue on that as well. So once again, if you have any input, you can share it at that info@communitygiving.org. We appreciate your joining us today. We have upcoming webinars. Our next one will be April 22nd, and that's going to be on real estate and other unique gifts. And then on May 20th, we have investment outlook and tax updates. So those are things coming up for you. We look forward to working with you, and thank you for joining us today.